Okay, wait. I have to hit go on YouTube and kick to. All right.
Which Agatha Christie reference did you get? And then there were none, or the Orient Express one?
The second one.
Okay. I think that's the more famous. No, it's not. And then there were none.
And then
used
there were
to
none
be called 10 Little Indians, but they decided that was too racist, and they had to change the title.
It was called something way worse in the UK, but we're not going to get to that. Anyway,
that's even better, actually.
I have questions.
I started reading, and then there were none this week. Since the last time we started book club, and I'm actually halfway through it now already.
Mm-hmm.
It is the best-selling mystery novel of all time, and I think like the 6th best novel of all time, best-selling.
That's crazy because I didn't think the ending was that good. So that's wild.
Okay, ending being good and selling well is not always correlative.
They buy the book to figure it out.
One of the reasons it sold so well is because, as we're seeing here in episode 5, you have to make a promise with the reader that this is not fantasy. And the way that these murders are carried out, and then there were none, leads you to believe that it's fantasy. But you made a promise the author has made a promise to you that by saying this is a mystery novel, then it can be solved as a mystery. And that's part of the reasons it's such a best-selling novel, is because it's like, well, how the hell was it done?
That's fair.
Anyway, end of book club. We've talked about mystery versus fantasy.
And so what are they talking about?
So what are the answers? What's the answer?
So
who did all the killings?
is that?
Oh, okay. All right.
Oh shit.
They must have, the witches must have gotten to Ari before she could tell us the answer.
And then Battler's Sin was.
Oh, you mean the Golden Warlock or whatever? Yeah. Okay. What was this? It was something Warlock. What is his name now?
It's the Golden Warlock.
The Golden Warlock.
Was sorcerer.
No, he's the Golden He's a sorcerer.
Wait,
okay.
Hold on.
Okay, all right. So in my translation, they called him the Golden Warlock.
No, it's sorcerer in the visual novel.
Well, sorcerer
sounds... At least in the Manga Gamer translation.
Listen, I like Warlock. I think it's cooler, okay? So I'm calling him the Golden Warlock.
Yeah, we're calling him a witch, because it's not gendered. He's a witch.
And that's fair, too. I was surprised why they didn't use that for him.
Actually, my argument is Trans Battler confirmed. He's just not out of the closet yet.
There's a lot of closets in this episode.
Oh, there'll be more, don't worry.
God fucking damn it.
There's always more. Okay,
also, a recent discovery.
You think you've seen enough closets.
It's occurred to me that my translation doesn't say it's no good at all. He says it's useless. And I haven't noticed that until now. Because you guys somehow accidentally gaslit me.
It's probably something like he's saying dameda or something like that in Japanese, and you could probably interpret that either way. Either way is probably correct. But I like no good at all. I like it, okay?
It is very funny.
What do they say in the visual novel?
I think it's useless.
Wow. What good are these translators?
Steam Deck to get my screenshots. So, I love the Steam Deck, okay? It's not a tangent. I love the Steam Deck. It's perfect for visual novels, okay?
Yeah.
But, come on.
But.
There we go.
But.
If you want to take screenshots, it is the worst. You have to go about, the weirdest way. Because it's in order to use the Steam Deck, you have to have a Steam account, right? So you would think that the screenshots, which are tied to your Steam account, you would just pull up your Steam account on your PC, and they're there. They're not. For some reason, it considers, I guess because it's a different PC, they don't sync the screenshots between each other. So you have to upload the screenshots to your Steam account. They can be privated, so only you can see them, but you still have to upload them. And then you have to, go in and, go through your screenshots and then go, through this roundabout way to actually save any screenshots.
Screenshot the screenshot.
It's
Have you considered loading up the game on the computer to take a screenshot? I feel like it works.
So that does work, but also my version of Chiru, the Answers arc, for some reason it's kind of corrupted on my PC. So like I have the Manga Gamer version, so I have the DVD disc, but like I wanted to use my cross saving from Steam Deck to PC, and that worked perfectly on the first 4 episodes. So I could play a little on my PC, it's cloud saved to Steam, and then I could pick it up again on Steam Deck. Worked perfectly. On Answers Arc, it got corrupted or something. So like when I open it up on PC, it's just like a creepypasta version where like none of the images load, and you just hear like the eerie kind of like wind howling.
So what you're telling me is we found like the generic creepypasta, but it actually exists.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my EXE of Umineko Cheater. And like I'll try and open it up sometimes. It's like, nope, it's still wrong. Yep. Okay. I can only play it on my Steam
Try
Deck.
open up Umineko.
This is
But the title screen was looking a little weird. I pressed on because I'm a dumbass idiot.
Oh, someone's saying in the book club chat, the VN has 2 translations too. One uses its uses, the other uses no damn good. Wait, why does the VN have 2 translations?
official and fan.
Listen, it's 150 hours.
Is it because of original? Wait, no, I don't know anymore.
Could you explain, Ari? Could you enlighten us?
Parallel universes, different fragments.
Here's my answer.
All right.
Thank you for that. All right, are we ready to go? I think I'm ready to go.
I'm ready to go. Trindo will not be joining us.
All right. Yes, I know. Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Let me just make sure I move this over here and this over here. Okay. All right. Let me take off the pre-show and we could begin. Welcome so much, everybody, to another exciting episode of the Anime Book Club here on YouTube, Twitch, and Kick all at the same time. You can find the links to all these things. You go to wolfborg.com and you'll find, if you're listening to this right now, I think you've already found it. And if you're here, there's follows and subscribe buttons. Press those fucking things. And this week, we are here to discuss the remaining volumes, the end of episode 5 of the huge classic murder mystery series that we're reading, Umineko When They Cry. Specifically, we are now on the end of the Golden Witch, which we are now at the end of the Golden Witch. So, before we start with this week, we will introduce the cast that's here this week. Starting alphabetical order, as usual, starting with me. I am Battlerborg, aka Chaplain, aka Wolfborg, aka the best host of any and all anime book clubs ever that you've ever witnessed or even conceived of within your dreams. I'm the guy running this. Now, you might think to yourself, but aren't we like 40 minutes late to start? Would a real host make us 40 minutes late to start? And to that, I would say, I'm not 40 minutes late. We're actually on time. I've just altered the fabric of all time using magic. Because now I've ascended from Battlerborg to Golden Warlock Borg, okay?
Oh
I have ascended. So I'm allowed to use the golden truth to tell you guys that we were not late for book club this week, all right?
Oh my god.
I'm allowed to do this now.
Golden truth, more like gaslight truth.
I'm allowed to. I don't have to present any facts or result. I could just say it. And you're just supposed to know. You can figure it out yourself.
That is your authority as the book club host. Or
I'm
as
allowed.
we call the territory lord, yeah.
Yeah, it's allowed. It's allowed. So that is me. I have made my declaration. We are not late. We are perfectly on time. Next up, we have Dango in here. Dango, will you be discussing with us, or are you just listening in for this week?
Oh, hi. Yeah, I'm just listening again. I think it's fine.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
I just wanted to double check because I didn't actually remember to double check before we started talking. I remember you had told us before that you were going to join us with the next series at least, but for now you're just going to hang around. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't have the time to catch up. Sorry.
Yeah, that's perfectly fair. We've gone through a lot. Volumes. Yeah, we've gone through a lot, so it's perfectly fair.
It's only like 80 hours at this point. Like, come on.
So yeah, just start like reading. You'll get there eventually.
1/4 of the YouTube time.
I could just do it so fast in like 2 seconds. Yeah, just
yeah.
give me a second.
I believe in you. I believe in you. Just read the Spark Notes, okay? Just look up the answers, and then we could just
Die.
All right. Next up, we have Shadow Man. Introduce yourself.
I am Shadow.
Thanks. Thank you.
I don't have anything funny today. Sorry, I'm just depressed. Is
Wow.
accounting.
Shame, bestie.
Oh shit. Well, yeah, that happens. So
Sounds like
shout
I'm
out
happy.
to accounting. Okay, have fun with that. Next up, we have Nyan Bacon. Introduce yourself.
What's up? I'm Nyan Bacon. You may also hear me referred to as Ann or Andy. You should go follow my Twitter, the Nyan Bacon, because I post art. There.
Yes. Let me show. Can I show the Battler art? Can I show it?
Yeah, you can.
Am I allowed to? Okay. Let me look
Yeah,
this
of
up.
course.
Tell us about your stream snack while I pull it up.
Oh shit! I forgot I have a stream snack. My stream snack today is a chocolate brownie blast, Sonic Blast with M&Ms in it. I got Sonic
God.
earlier today, and I didn't finish the ice cream, so now I'm
Hey,
finishing it
Nyan.
now. Huh?
I have the questions again. What the fuck do you just say to me?
It's just like ice cream.
Okay,
That
that
sounds
makes
delicious,
sense, I
man.
guess.
Oh my
Yeah,
god!
it's
Why
just
does
ice
OBS
cream
do this? OBS makes
with-
everything huge.
I think it has like chocolate syrup in it. It's vanilla ice cream with chocolate syrup, like soft serve, and then brownie chunks, chocolate like flakes, and M&Ms. Because I'm cool like that.
You are cool like that. I'm hungry now.
Hot
I hate
chocolate.
you. Did you bring
That
enough for the
sounds
whole book club?
amazing. I want
Did-
that.
Did you bring enough for the whole
No.
book club?
No.
Why not?
I
Why not?
didn't think that I was going to be eating it during book club. It's
Wow.
just my leftovers.
Wow.
Oh,
I don't
also,
think
you
that's
have
an
to
excuse.
exclude me because it's not maple syrup.
Oh damn. Is that how that
Bro
works?
only eats maple syrup.
Just raw maple syrup. Why don't we eat anything else with it? Just the maple syrup.
But
Actually,
yeah,
I actually
do
not. Actually, not memeing. I
This
had
is-
maple syrup in like years.
It was
Like
a very,
forever.
very awesome Battler art that we got going on here. I love it. I can't say it's no good at all, but it makes me feel like saying no good at all. But it's it's tricky. Okay, it's
Thank
good. It's good at all.
good.
That feels awkward to say too. I can't say the opposite of it.
It's no good at all.
Yeah,
You got double negative it.
it's not no good. Not no good at all. Yeah, there you
There
go.
we go. We figured it out. We cracked the code.
I will also be turning that in for a school assignment, so
Oh my
everybody
God.
can look at Battler.
I can't wait. Definitely gonna get 100%. Okay, 100%. Hundo.
That's what I'm hoping for.
I believe in it. I believe in it. All right. Next
I'll
up,
run
we
the number.
have Arimia. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Arimia. I'm the one subjecting them to Umineko.
Okay, hold on. Subjecting's a strong word here. Okay.
We
No, I'm
voted
just
on
being
it
subjective.
collectively. We voted on it. There was a vote. We had a vote.
No, it was being
there may have
subjective
been-
was when you guys read Familiar of Zero. Okay,
There-
that's different.
Listen,
Oh,
listen. That's
maybe
that's a little more
subjective
accurate.
to the rest of you. I thought it was okay.
I thought it was fine. Listen, we're not here to talk about Familiar of Zero. We're not here to talk about
Yes, we
Familiar of
are.
Zero.
You full
right.
battle. I mean, Wolfborg.
All right. Well.
A Battlerborg.
All right.
It
Well,
was
thank you-
Louis stall time.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for that. And now it is time to begin our discussion. Umineko, When They Cry, Episode 5, Volumes 5 and 6, The End of the Golden Witch. And this week, we have the Illusory Court's trial. The trial was in session. We had all the facts, all the logic. Erica, I guess, would be the prosecutor here, accusing Natsuhi of the crimes for this episode. But there is, okay, maybe it's just me. I had a lot of confusion about like what our goals were on both sides of these things. I feel like several people have
Don't worry
lost the
about it.
plot of what is supposed to be going on. But I understand
So-
why. It's because of the characters' developments on these different sides or whatever. Because Battler started off this series, right, wanting to disprove the existence of witches. But now we have this case where, like, he is essentially rooting for the existence of witches because it proves that Nazi and his family members, like Kraus or whatever, could not have done
We
the
got
crime.
back to square one.
So we're essentially kind of going back.
It's
But
a
also-
Velcro, actually.
But also, it's more so like wanting to root against Erica because Erica's coming up with all these facts and all these deductions and essentially elevating. She's not able to speak the red truth, but she's able to present enough evidence that it is elevated to a red truth, essentially, which is Not good for Natsuhi's side and Battler. So, well, Battler doesn't really
it's
get
no
involved
good.
until later, but
No
yeah,
good at all.
It's a very painful trial for Natsuhi and Beatrice. Beatrice was, I guess, the Natsuhi's lawyer towards the beginning, and it wasn't really working out for Beatrice with this. There's a lot. The thing with Erica is, like, I mean, last week I was like, okay, she seemed like she's correct about everything that she's like deducing and like pointing out or whatever. But we're given a unique thing, I think halfway through the reading this week, where we're told that she's wrong, but she's still considered right because of there's been no evidence to disprove her, even though we know through red text that she's wrong. We were given by Virgilia the red text granted to Battler that Natsuhi was not the culprit. But when Battler goes to try to use it, it doesn't matter because you're not allowed to just present that without any other supporting evidence.
That's a nice argument, Battler. How about you give me a source?
Like, it was a whole thing about Nox's rules or whatever. You can't use supernatural abilities to solve the case. You have to have something. So, like, Erica, in all of her time beforehand, was able to elevate her stuff to red truth because she had all the supporting evidence behind it. Battler doesn't. Battler just knows that fact, so he can't just say that fact to try to save her. It doesn't. It's no good. It's no good at all. So
because like Virgilia is not in this court, it is against Byrne, Lambda, and Erica. Like, you know, Byrne and Lambda are the ones that can use the red truth, and Glenor can use kind of red truth. It's just Nox's principles, his decalogue, I think is how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
So Battler, of course, is still human at the beginning, so he can't use that truth. How dare you? How dare you try to come up here and use red truth? A human.
We have rules here, Battler.
I will say, Erica, as a fucking lawyer here in this case, not just like detective and gathering the clues. I mean, she was also insane. How she was like, I know all this shit, ironclad, you can't fight this stuff, is like, yeah, so when I arrived here, I like scaled the walls of like around the building and put tape on all the outsides of the windows, preemptively knowing that people would die because of course people would die. I'm a detective. I have meta knowledge about how mystery novels work. As a detective, people will die. So I just put tape on all the doors and all the windows so I would know if any of them had been open and when they had been open. So I scaled the walls in like the wetsuit I showed up in and like, Jesus. Insanity.
He's a horror villain.
and then she's like, okay, and then when Battler went to sleep, okay, Battler couldn't have been the culprit because I listened to the wall next to his room the entire night. I did not get any sleep.
That bothered me so much.
That annoyed me.
Like, you're still human as
Everything's on me at the moment, to be honest.
I thought it was gonna be smarter with that. I thought she was gonna be like the audio system that we established earlier on in the episode. I used that in that room somehow. That didn't come up at all again.
Yeah, it's just a Chekhov's gun at this point. I'm not sure.
I thought that was going to come up again during the trial. It didn't. I'm sure it probably is some important factor towards some of the facts towards the remaining mysteries about this episode. Because I can't imagine you bring up audio system that can record things, and it is not important at any point towards this. It's like a huge, like, mega hint, I feel like, in these kind of things. It just didn't really come up in the court case because it's probably something you as the reader is supposed to utilize to interpret these things. And I had assumed at some point last week that it was probably used towards the knock sound, but I think there was a red truth that got rid of that, so I don't even know. But anyways, we have Erica apparently was a lot crazier than we thought. Didn't know that was possible, but apparently it was. She, like,
it just happened, I guess, you know?
Scaling walls like a little fucking spider. Spider-Man Erica over here. All the tape everywhere. And it's not just the tape. It's not just regular tape. It's like special, like, sign tape with like a certain, like, super stickiness to it or whatever. So it's like no way somebody could replicate it if they noticed it or something like that. And then she even taught this to Ava and gave her some, I think.
In the VN, basically, she just, like, kind of, like, not scribbles over it, but kind of. She, like, makes this intricate kind of pattern that are, like, special
signs
to
it
it
in different
stuff.
places, yeah.
Yeah, signs it in different ways, essentially, that like it doesn't really look like words. It doesn't really look replicatable.
Okay, how do I approach discussing this case? I'm like trying to.
How
There
do
was
you,
so
Valor?
much. There was so much going on with this case, and it was not
Well,
very
Valor
straightforward
order's
with
always
it.
good.
It was not straightforward with it. Is the annoying? Well, first of all, they did not try to start in chronological order. They tried to start with Hideyoshi's death, but they specifically it was to try to paint it so that Natsuhi was guilty before we even got to talk about the other deaths. So essentially, we had them rewind to the other deaths. But by the time we even got to Hideyoshi's deaths, we barely even discussed what happened with Hideyoshi's death. So that annoyed me a bit and felt like maybe we shouldn't have done that because maybe we would have been closer to the truth sooner had we discussed Hideyoshi's death first, maybe, but I don't know. But the important thing with the first set of killings, when they found the first 5 dead, the thing there was with the time frame of when those deaths happened. They kept narrowing down the time frame of when it happened and then where people were during that time frame, and they were utilizing this to state that everybody else had an alibi at that time except Natsuhi. Therefore, Natsuhi must be the killer because we do not have other people introduced within this little game we got going on here. And we must assume that one of the people that are here must be the culprit. And so if everybody but Natsuhi is somewhere that we know they couldn't have done the thing, then it must be Natsuhi who had to have done it. Because somebody had to kill these people, so it must have been Natsuhi. That's the logic that we have going on here. And we had a long list of evidence, facts, insanity with tape or whatever to determine when certain doors were open and who was in what rooms at what times. And essentially, it sounded like almost everybody was either, what was it, the guest house or the hallway or the dining hall? Were those like the 3 areas? And it sounded like, based on the positions and at the timings of these things, only Natsuhi was around to move around and do this crime. And so the confusion, though, is that this must mean every other logical thing that we extrapolate afterwards has to be based on the assumption of Natsuhi having been the killer in the first case, framed by that. So by the time we get to Hideyoshi, we're just like, oh, that's a no-brainer. Obviously, it was just Natsuhi again. When in reality, like, it seemed like, I don't remember if there was that much restricting other people from doing Hideyoshi's death. Maybe there was. But I know for the bulk of this thing, the bulk of this this week was focusing first and foremost, and for most of this trial, on who could have been the only one to have done that first set of killings. Because everybody afterwards would have to just assume that that must be the killer who also did the other killings. And the other thing that we established is that Kraus was dead soon after Natsuhi heard him on the phone. That was another thing that we said. Because at one point, was it like a plea deal the Burncastle was trying to say to Natsuhi? Like, accuse Kraus of having done these crimes, and we will, like, switch over our testimony to focus on him instead of you. And she refuses, of course, because that's her husband. That's, yeah, of course, that's my family that you're talking shit about.
Kind of pissed me off this chapter.
She kind of did, well, I mean, I was getting annoyed because it was just blanket, like, I trust my family, and there's no possible way that they could have done it, especially, like, with Kraus or whatever, when she hasn't seen Kraus in, like, 2 days at this point
Kraus
or something like
was
that?
just doing lol trolling.
Like,
Yeah,
Kraus,
she literally hasn't seen Kraus for, like, all of the major events.
and, like, meanwhile, okay, the whole Kinzo part, bro, I understand. You have this whole pride about being a member of the Ushiromiya family, okay? You really want to have the one-winged crest emblazoned upon your heart, Natsuhi. But, bro, Kinzo's been dead from the start. You don't need to be defending him that hard that you were trying to at first. They had to, like, disintegrate the idea of the Kinzo that Natsuhi had thought up in the middle of the courtroom, and break down Natsuhi, being like, Kinzo never had any respect for you, barely even talked to you, didn't fucking like you. The lore we were given about that was Natsuhi was married into the family because Kinzo wanted to elevate the Ushiromiya name because all the other families basically looked at him like new money, so they didn't really have much respect for him. So he married the family into old money, which was Natsuhi's family. And so the idea is that Natsuhi looked down on her as like an outsider, I guess, because of that. And then also, we're also being given hints that Natsuhi basically, not really towards Kinzo, but like towards Kraus in general, like did not care about Kinzo as much as like we've been told how much she loves it. I had major problems with that line of discussion though, because that was all based on her diaries, being like, there's no interest in here about, you know, happy times between you two together. That was mainly like, I feel like one of the main points of diaries is to vent about bad shit. I don't really feel like you're spending as much time in diaries writing about a lot of good shit when you've already experienced that and you're happy or whatever. It feels like you know those like vent channels people will make in fucking Discord servers or whatever? Yeah, you're not venting about happy stuff in there usually. Like you're usually venting about bad stuff that has happened. And I feel like that's the same with a diary for a lot of people as well. Obviously not in all cases, but I don't feel like you could go into court with all these diaries for somebody and say, there's not one line in here that says you loved him, therefore you must have hated him and you wanted him dead. Okay, let's calm down now.
It's a straw man fallacy, I think.
Yeah, it's like it would be, you would use that kind of shit as like character evidence to like try to convince the jury of some shit, but it wouldn't be like hard evidence at all. So I don't even know why we're trying to bring it up other than to torture Natsuhi. But at that point though, we were being told that like other members of the family had also come up with their own rumors and suspicions about Natsuhi. We were specifically told rumors about Natsuhi related to her sleeping with Kinzo allegedly.
Dude, that was fucking wild.
That was an insane.
That was crazy.
Because we're making that. And we only got to that because we're doing like, okay, the red truths. Okay, Kinzo was not in this room. Was not in this room. Kinzo was only in this room at the same time as Natsuhi. They were only in the same the bed, the same bed as Natsuhi at the same exact time.
As they were walking towards that conclusion, I was sitting there like, there is no fucking way that this is what they're about to pull. And then it was, and I was floored.
I was confused where I was like, is this finally the time where we admit that Kinzo, we prove definitively that Kinzo was dead and just in Natsuhi's head? No. How about instead, Kinzo was sleeping with Natsuhi? And okay, all right. I did find it.
That was crazy.
Man, all the Kinzo stuff. I was just like, is she just that mad over losing the debate about Kinzo being alive that she's now just going to say that Kinzo was sleeping with Natsuhi? Is that where we're going with this? Because, like, man,
because she knows that Kinzo's dead.
Right.
So it's all just slander and libel at this point.
It's astonishing to me, though, that we know the Kinzo's dead, and Erica has her suspicions knowing that Kinzo's dead, but is not able to fully prove it. But she'll be able to prove all these other things by twisting a whole bunch of things or whatever. Like as we discussed. Oh, I forgot that was like an entrance sound effect. Okay, yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't know how to remove it. I've tried.
You don't know how to remove? I don't.
Oh, okay.
I've never turned it on. But...
I chose that so long ago. I don't know how to take it off.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. So, what was I? I was discussing Erica's stuff here. We were talking about Erica coming up with these conclusions about Kinzo being alive or dead, and losing that debate against Battler in last week's volumes that we discussed. And we never have her go back to discuss those facts in detail during the trial itself. We discussed it a little bit more during the retrial, I think. I'm trying to remember. There was a point in this volume where they bring it up again about Kinzo being in that room or not. But it was a whole thing where I'm just reading this like, okay, we're basing a lot of our testimony assuming that Kinzo's dead, despite the fact that we had a whole fucking debate about whether or not Kinzo was dead, and we could not definitively prove that Kinzo was dead based on the evidence from the episode so far. And so a lot of the debate that was happening in the trial over only Natsuki could have been responsible, it seemed like it was completely ignoring, just assuming that Kinzo was dead. Or like, as if we did not have that whole debate last week about the fact that Kinzo could have left out of that room. Maybe he would have died falling into the garden. Maybe he would have broken his legs. I don't know. But supposedly, we still had the open theory that he was walking around. Okay. I got annoyed with us bringing up again the idea that Battler could have been the culprit. I understand why he did it in the context of wanting to do anything he can to defend his side of these things. I don't like it in the case of it not just trying to do wordplay by trying to be like, oh, well, technically Eric is the detective, therefore Battler can't be the detective. But it goes even further to be like, oh, well, is based on whether or not I have a subjective or objective view of the events going on. And because I think I saw Kinzo in this one area, that must mean that I'm not the detective. Like, I did not like that excuse that we pulled out for that.
Why not?
I liked the play on the idea that he's an unreliable narrator.
I don't... Yeah, go on.
But
go on.
not necessarily in the argument of whether or not he's the detective. Honestly, I was convinced for a lot of this that he could have been the culprit, or at least the person that was calling Natsuki. I also think that I don't want to say guilty through like insanity or something, but I don't think Natsuki was well.
Oh. We're talking about Battler still.
No, I'm trying to get all of my thoughts in. I think that Battler could be the culprit, but in terms of, my point was that I think Battler could be the person that was manipulating Natsuki, and then Natsuki did the killings, but didn't realize that she did the killings because of the insanity argument. But that obviously might be too much of a stretch. But I'm a little whore for unreliable narrator stories. Love that shit.
Yeah,
so not necessarily specifically in the context of proving whether or not he was the detective, because I don't fucking care about that. I don't think he's been the detective at all in any of this. Almost specifically because he has too much of an emotional attachment to the case. But I like the debate of the fact that with the previous evidence and the fact that Battler is also having like weird visions, he could argue that he was an unreliable narrator and therefore withholding evidence as a result. I liked that. I thought that was neat.
Here's my whole thing. I don't mind unreliable narrators as a thing. My problem is when we're using unreliable narrators through the lens of either a detective or somebody who we are essentially being led to believe is a character who should not be involved with the killings or whatever, in these kind of mystery cases. Battler's case, I know you think Battler has not been the detective in these kind of things, but he's, in my mind, he's essentially played the role to an extent by, at least in the meta Battler version, trying to solve the case through his lens, but also through the red text that we had before saying that Battler was not the culprit and has not and will not be the killer or whatever. I believe we had that kind of stuff before. I thought we had one that says you have not and will never, but I don't know. Maybe I'm misremembering that. Okay, well, maybe I'm misremembering that. But
on.
I had, yeah.
Where was that from?
It was one of the red text things.
There was a screenshot sent.
Virgilia said,
yes,
Battler-kun isn't the culprit. Battler-kun didn't kill anyone. This can be said of all games. Now, when she says all games, the game
no,
that they're
okay, that does no, okay. So that counts then, right? So this game, all the games. You can't just say all games. That only means retroactive.
Virgilia
See, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm
to-
talking about. This
Virgilia
is
did not
no.
create
Okay,
Episode
that's what I'm talking
5.
about. That doesn't matter. That's what I'm talking about right there. Dumb shit like that, where it's like, oh, technically speaking, they mean so that. No, you're literally saying it like that. The implication should be to the
so
reader that it should be
Virgilia-
all the games. I understand,
Virgilia
because
has the
all the
ability
if you're saying all the games, that means now, present, and future. You don't say that about. You would specifically say if it only meant the past games. You would not just
But
say
Virgilia
all
wouldn't
games
know
blanket.
But Virgilia wouldn't
What do you mean?
know
Virgilia wouldn't be able to say it if it's not the red truth. What do you mean?
But what
Virgilia
we're
wouldn't know
saying
that-
is that Virgilia...
Haven't we literally also had somebody state that Kinzo's dead in all games, including
Okay.
future games?
Hey, counterpoint. Virgilia said that, but it could be argued with the golden truth if the golden truth applies to those future games.
Here's my thing. Virgilia says that this can be said of all games, but, I mean, that does not necessarily mean of all future games.
That absolutely would. To most
Why?
people's minds, it would, because you're saying all games. You would specifically say, like, something else more specific if you're only referring to the past games that she knows of, like,
Can we
only the
pull up
past
the
games.
original Japanese and translate this ourselves?
No, we are not
That
pulling
is
up the original Japanese.
This is the
Because
Manga
it's
Gamer
probably...
translation.
Listen. It's probably correctly translated. That's not the issue here. My issue is directly with how we're wording this and then trying to pull some weird thing to be like, well, technically speaking, that
So
doesn't mean...
in the context of this was specifically when Virgilia was talking to Battler about Beto's games. It was when she was trying to explain to him, trying to get it through to him, like, why do you think she made these games? She did it for a purpose. This epitaph was meant to be solved for a purpose. She wanted you to solve these games for a purpose. You are not the culprit, but that just means that she made these games to show you something.
Yeah, but
So
she
it's
didn't
in
say
that context.
she didn't say all Beatrice's games though. She said all games.
Oh my gosh.
That's my problem here.
No,
I'm not wrong with what I'm saying, and you know I'm not wrong with what I'm saying. Now I know you're no, I know what this is. I already understand what this is. No. I already understand what this is. I fully understand what this is. Okay, Ari, with her future knowledge of the series, knows that technically speaking, there's way games where Battler is the culprit. So when she's saying it here, she technically doesn't mean future. But you know, if you did not know this future information, you would also be assuming the same thing as me. You both know it.
Though.
No, there's no shot. If somebody's saying all games, you are not the culprit, you would not just assume it's only the past games. Unless they specifically said it. You know this. You know
I'm just
this.
saying, in the context.
You know this. You know this.
She's specifically talking about Beto's games because at this point in
But
the
she would have said it.
And the
She would have
whole
said
thing-
it.
No, because the whole thing is that Lambda Delta is now
Are you-
controlling the game. They're
At
fighting
this
about
point-
That doesn't matter.
this
She didn't say
point-
Beatrice's game. She said all
At this
games.
point in the story, when Virgilia uses that red text, the killings of the first night had not occurred. So she would have no way of knowing
That
whether or
doesn't
not
matter.
if
This-
there was
this
even going
doesn't
to be a
matter.
murder.
That's not even true. What do you mean? Wait.
She would
Exactly.
know there's gonna be some kind of murder, but like,
Of course they're gonna
still,
know.
There would be no way of knowing for her to know how they were carried out, who died. If she wouldn't even know if Battler was in one of the because like Castle assumed that Battler was going to be one of the first sacrifices.
Again, and you know I'm correct when I say this. She would not have said all games. She would have been more specific, and you know this to be true. You know this. Okay, this isn't even my main point. My main point is to be like, we are led to most regular, actual readers, okay? And you know I'm right about this. When they read that, they will assume, okay, so Battler must not be the culprit in future
Shadow,
games
what
too.
would you
They
assume?
will.
Okay, so unfortunately to disappoint everyone, I'm on Chef's side on this. I
Thank
also
you.
assume
Okay, so
that.
Thank you.
it's tied. It's tied.
Yeah, you can say it's tied all you want.
I actually didn't remember that ever being said, so.
So you're just fighting me. All right.
Yeah, it was.
Anyways, this is beyond what I'm trying to say here. Anyways, the point I'm getting at here is that things like that leads the reader to assume and trust this certain thing. But because we are being told, the whole point of the tool, the red text, is that you as the reader do not have to just assume certain vague facts that could have happened. Like you can assume because this red text has been said, this event had to have happened. And this fact must be true, no matter what the other circumstances seem to be. Like it might seem like Nazi couldn't have possibly been in the room to do the murder, but the red text said she was in the room and did the murder. Therefore, you have to figure out some kind of way logically for that to still have worked, given all the red text around you. When we're being told lines like that, okay, and apparently we have to play some weird, like, spiritual, like, reader interpretation of what that means based on Virgilia's mindset at that time, even though it's red text. No, that shit is just annoying to me because it like, untrustworthy narratives, okay, or whatever the full term is, whatever. Unreliable narrative, you know what I mean. You know what I'm trying to say. Unreliable narrators, okay. I don't mind them as a concept. I get annoyed when we are basically like told in some kind of way as the reader, this is a safe like thing. Okay, we do not have to mistrust this thing, because if we mistrust this thing, it warps all of our perception of how we're supposed to logically approach literally everything towards how to solve this. That's what annoys me in my own personal thing. And you might all feel differently, but that's just how I feel. So when I'm reading this and I'm being told, okay, Battler is here to assume that he might have been actually the culprit, I can follow like him arguing that kind of case. But my problem is just the fact that we were told that kind of stuff beforehand. We're being basically led through the story to assume this kind of stuff, because if Battler was the culprit all along, which is a concept that we already had tried to approach last episode and then shot down because of other reasons or whatever, it's like, well, then what are we trying to do here? If the point of this is to try to reveal something to Battler, then I get annoyed as fuck when we have like these situations where actually in this episode you're not supposed to trust him anymore, even though we were told that it was okay to trust him as the narrator or whatever. Like I don't know, it annoys me. Okay, that's all I'm trying to say. It annoys me as a concept with that kind of thing. And because I'm here, like I wrote down all the red text. Yeah,
at what point was it established without question that Battler was a reliable narrator?
Well, essentially through like, I mean, like, because again, we've had the cases where it could have been that Battler was involved with it, right? Where like we had the whole debate about, you are not actually Battler, you are an imposter who killed him and took over his name, and you are actually doing the killings. We had that whole, what was that, episode 4 or whatever? But like, now that we've literally introduced also a detective with a, like, you know, all the rules revolving around it, like, most people would naturally be assuming that Battler, prior to Erica showing up, would be considered the detective in this kind of scenario, especially given the fact that most of the story is trying to logically piece the stuff together from Meta Battler's perspective of these kind of things. If Meta Battler has to determine whether or not he himself is also the killer, that kind of like ruins everything with how those kind of puzzles work, I think. Like, I don't know.
And that's why Virgilia is like, you did not commit any of the crimes in the first 4 episodes. Nico did not write that in her script. Even though you are the last survivor in each of the episodes, you are not the culprit.
Okay, again, to be clear, she did not say the first 4 episodes. She said all games. I just want to remind you guys, okay? Because we might want to play logic games with that, little mind games, but I understand why you want to, okay? I understand that, but anyways. All right, so...
Like Shannon here said, if Battler was the culprit, the game would have ended there at episode 5, but Meta Battler just gave that as a theory to counteract.
Yes. I'm okay. I do like this concept of, like, we understand things are, like, we have red truth that points towards this, but we don't have the evidence to prove that fully. So we're just going to make up some insane other bullshit to try to support that. And we understand that that's not the correct answer. Yeah, tiny bombs. You know, we understand that's not the correct answer towards this, but the other side doesn't have the evidence to do anything about it. So that's what we're going to do. Because that's why, like, Erica knows these, what was it? Erica knew that Nazi was not the culprit, right? Or no, maybe Erica didn't. Or something to that. Erica knew that Kenzo was dead.
Yes.
And yet
Erica knew that there's no way that Kenzo could be the culprit.
Right.
But she still went with that just to defile Nazi.
Yeah, which was one of the important notes that I took down because I wanted to discuss it. The very beginning of these volumes was we're looking at like them start the court trial and Lambda Delta and Burringhouse or whatever, like sitting up having popcorn or whatever. People are discussing. I wrote down this quote. If Lambda Delta finds it amusing, she will settle on Nazi as the culprit, regardless of the truth, which I thought was really funny as a concept. Because in my view, Lambda Delta doesn't give a fuck. She just only wants to be entertained, which makes sense for her character. But I was just immediately like, oh, so she's like public reaction to people being accused of crimes, whether or not they committed it or not. People don't give a fuck. They just want to watch the drama happen.
This
want.
was a very good
She's a
commentary
React
on
YouTuber, yeah.
Yeah,
how good
yeah. Because she was just like, I guess that makes sense. That's valid, and also I think it's fun. We'll go with that. Yeah, we'll just go with that.
It's comedy, therefore true.
Because Lambda Delta and I'm assuming, well, at least Lambda Delta would know the right answers. So whether or not Erica is telling the correct answers or not, like Lambda Delta would know, but she doesn't really give a shit. Well, one, she just wants to win, but two, she wants to have fun with it too. So watching Burncastle suffer trying to have Erica solve the case or whatever, and then like tearing things away. Well, I mean, it wasn't really her that teared it away from her at the end, but Lambda Delta had a fun time laughing as everything was torn away from Erica when she thought that she won. She was promoted to the Witch of Truth that was ready to take over the remains of this game world until like it was about to go away. You know, I mean, there's a lot of other things that happened beforehand, but yeah. So
one thing I like to mention.
Yes.
So as Sig mentioned, Peace Battler in this episode isn't like actually controlled by Battler, therefore he's not exactly trustworthy.
Yeah, Peace Battler in this
makes sense, but
Peace Battler in this game is Lambda.
Yeah,
Lambda controlled this entire game.
That was what was throwing me off a little bit too during the trial. That was Peace Battler, right?
No. That was Meta Battler.
So that was Meta Battler. Okay. I was getting confused. Where was Peace Battler during the trial? Was Peace Battler not a thing?
They became one.
They became one during the trial. Okay.
You're one entity.
Okay. All
because
right.
Normally,
so that makes more sense to me then.
Normally the meta person would be controlling their Peace version, but because he was off just sitting around with Beto, and they proceeded the game without him, Lambda took control of his Peace, and then once they got to the Natsuhi, you're the culprits part, he retook over his Peace, so one person at the end.
Well, except for what the hell is going on with Kinzo in the room? It's still. So,
well, the first Kinzo that was in there was Natsuhi's like fantastical version of Kinzo, and then we evaporated him, and then there was the real Kinzo who did and said nothing in there because he's dead the whole time.
No, I mean like during the game, like that Battler refuting Erica's.
You're referring to Peace Battler debating Erica about Kinzo's existence. Is that what you're referring to? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. There was a lot of red text, blue text in several of these arguments. I didn't bother writing a lot of important ones down because a lot of them was literally like Erica pauses a theory, and it's enough for Burncastle to just repeat it in red. I think was it. I'm pretty sure it was Burncastle that repeated them. We had. I think Battler tried to speak up at some point during the trial when Beatrice was still there. And slapped him fuck down. He's like, what if I have something to say? No, you fucking don't. Okay, how about you shut the fuck up?
It's not your turn, Battler.
All right, Beatrice is speaking right now, okay? And then Beatrice was not able to do... I feel like she just kept getting her ass kicked. I don't remember her doing much during this trial. What I'm trying to like see if there was any W's that Beatrice had. It was just like, I will defend Natsuhi because she has conjured me up.
This was Peace Veto, by the way, until the very end with her hair down when she was crying.
Yeah,
like the very end. But
because the meta Beatrice is still in like comatose mode essentially during the trial, right?
Yeah, and given up mode.
Yeah, and Peace Beatrice is trying to defend. Also, is it fair to say Peace Beatrice is essentially just also Natsuhi's imagination too? Is that fair to say at this point? Because that's what it felt like to me, at least. It felt like
I think that would be a fair interpretation.
Because I was just like, okay, Ronove and Kinzo and Beatrice is all hanging out with Natsuhi. You know, they're all talking together. I was just okay. So all this is just in Beatrice, not in Natsuhi's head.
Beatrice's head. That's even funnier though.
Do we understand why Beto is defending Natsuhi?
So that part I was trying to think through. And I think for the most part, when I was reading it, I tried not to think too much about it, and I just assumed, okay, so this is just Natsuhi's fantastical version of Beatrice, and so this is essentially Natsuhi trying to defend herself. That's what I had thought and just assumed.
Ari, I got too much going on in my life. You can't expect me to read and think at the same time.
That's a lot.
This is literally the series that tells you you have to think when you're reading.
Nope.
I don't think they do. I think this series tells me to think when I see red text. Okay, when I see the red text, just believe the red text. Okay, why can't the series just
understanding why I haven't figured anything out? It's because I don't think when I read this.
I think it's a little bullshit. Why can't they just give us all the red text? Okay, that would make this a lot faster.
Minus 2 hours of sleep.
Here's the one thing I will say. Okay, here's the one thing I will say.
I had a headache the whole time today.
I did basically find it funny how we just equated everything that's been happening, all the torture of the family, the endless loop of this murders, just being like love is war, but in Umineko, where it's just like
back up just a bit though. The Bito Natsuhi, the witch side Bito, which is technically still Lambda, so you could say that Lambda is the one controlling Peace Bito here to defend Natsuhi, even though she's not really... Lambda's obviously not really caring who wins. Because it's not really her illusion that she is trying to protect. It's not herself that she's trying to protect. She is just acting as the role of the illusion of the Golden Witch. Okay. Lambda is. Peace Bito here is trying to absolve Natsuhi of the crime, because if you can pin all of the crimes on one person, then you have disproven the illusion of the witch. You have basically said, oh, well, why would we believe a witch did it? Clearly, it was this human. We have all this evidence against this human. Why would we ever believe in a witch? So the only way... Yeah, so the only way that the illusion of the Golden Witch can continue is if there is a doubt. Who could actually have committed these? And with Battler bringing in, well, what if it was me? And here's all this proof. There is a shadow of a doubt. You cannot, like a jury cannot convict with reasonable doubts, Yeah. They have to have a full idea of who did it with certainty. And if you can get that certainty, then you have erased the presence of a witch, the possibility of a witch.
Right. Here was my thing with that.
And that is why you have to love.
Here was my thing with that. When I was reading the trial, I was thinking to myself, not only is Beatrice a dogshit lawyer, she's a dogshit lawyer because she is not even going towards the story she's going with. She's too focused on refuting Erica's theories that she's not even bringing up their truth or whatever, their version of the events, which in her version it would be that these were all the work of a witch, and so there's these impossibilities or things that cannot be explained, which she's not even attempting to think about or bring up. She's only trying to address what Erica is bringing up, because Erica's side is holding to the idea of, well, if we can prove all these other things are not true, then this one remaining thing must be true, essentially. But Beatrice is not doing what her side is, in my mind, supposed to be doing, which is casting additional explanations for these kind of things, or additional things that are not being fully explained. She's just not doing it. And I was getting frustrated about that. I'm like, Beatrice, if you're trying to prove a witch did this, why aren't you doing the shit you were doing in the last episodes where you were trying to be like, this is an impossibility because of this room being sealed in this way or whatever? I'm like, why are we just accepting everything as only the reality of things when you're the witch who's trying to prove that it's not the reality of things? You're trying to I was getting annoyed by that. I was like, why is she being a dogshit lawyer?
Yeah. A lot of that might have just ended up getting knocked down with Nox's rules.
Yeah, a lot of it was getting knocked down with that, because as we saw Peace Vito earlier struggling with Nox's rules. I see it as because Battler acknowledges she is in the same position as I was when we were fighting. And it does feel reminiscent of his early fights where he's not trying to... He never came up with new theories in the first couple episodes. It was just, trying to knock down her ideas rather than bring up ones of his own. Completely on defense, no offense.
There was just none. I was like, when are we gonna fight
None.
back? When are we gonna fight back? And then
She's not making the All-Star team.
Yeah, and then it took Battler later on to like start fighting back. We can actually fight back. We have ways to do it. We just have to actually do it. But I will say, I don't entirely blame her because, again, the level of insanity Erica went to, without us even knowing, to be like, yeah, I know this is all the case because I have definitively proven by scaling up the walls and putting tape everywhere that this is the case. Like, that's just insane levels of like you would not expect it. But like, yeah, I mean, in part, I think it's because of the fact that this is Peace Beatrice and not like Meta Beatrice, who seems far better at this game, of course. But I mean, technically speaking, as we discussed last week, she's supposed to be as good, if not better, than how Beatrice would handle this stuff as Peace. But you know, I mean, that's whatever. But okay, so the trial happened. We had all the debates against the evidence, and then afterwards we saw like an aftermath of events based upon the finalized verdict of it. The verdict being that, you know, with no evidence of proof towards the contrary, we must just assume that Natsuhi must have been the killer because we have no evidence that says otherwise, that somebody else could have done it. Kraus is established to have been dead like a little bit afterwards, which some details like that, I was a little annoyed with us just assuming that that was the case based on the red truth, but we're not allowed to have, like, we didn't find Kraus's body.
See, this is why I don't think when I'm reading, so I don't have to worry about these things.
No, you need to think when you read.
I'm not allowed to think. We're not
You are
allowed to do
literally
that.
reading a mystery that keeps asking you questions.
Listen, eventually it'll tell us the answers. Let's just keep reading
Yeah.
the text.
You guys are terrible, you know that?
So, yeah, so I get annoyed with some details, which I'm sure there's, like, reasons for it that I can, like, explain or whatever for it. But it's like, oh, we're going to say in red text that Kraus was actually dead soon after you talked to him on the phone. We didn't find the body. We didn't find anything about him afterwards. We're just going to assume that he's dead because the red text said so. But when Battler says that Natsuhi was not the culprit, we just got to kind of say, oh, you need evidence for that. Where's your facts? Where's
They
your...
explained why.
Yeah, no, I understand why in Battler's case. I don't understand why they didn't in Kraus's case. That's what I'm saying.
Because Kraus wasn't the one trying to use the red truth.
No, but that's Battler was trying to say Natsuhi was not the culprit. Like, okay, I don't know if I'm getting my point across here. Just because Burncastle and Lambda Delta can stay... The whole point of Burncastle staying these things in red is because at that point, Erica has already proven with evidence that this is essentially in red. So we're just solidifying it in red at that point. But that wasn't the case with Kraus. Kraus has just been missing. And we didn't really have evidence that he was dead. We just kind of said he's dead. That was kind of my problem with that. We're making assumptions about what happened to Kraus. Like, I understand the red text will prove to us that Kraus was dead soon after the phone call ended. But I was just kind of a little bit annoyed myself. I was like, well, then why did that happen? Why did we not have, like, evidence for that if we were going to be so much on Battler's ass for it that we essentially metaphorically kill him in the game for daring to state this? Was one thing that I had noted, at least. And again, these are things that are probably more so explainable for through things like maybe Erica, through her detective abilities, examined all the areas and eventually found Kraus's dead body. We just weren't shown that fact or whatever. It might be something like that. You know, it could be things like that. Whereas in the case of Nazi not being the culprit, this is not really something that Erica is going to say in her case because she's trying to accuse all the crimes of being Nazi because we want to disprove witches, you know, essentially.
I didn't think about that scene in that context at all because I was solely focused on the fact that the whole reason that Battler's argument fell flat, if you strip the situation of the evidence, the whole reason Battler's argument fell flat was because he didn't have the ability to use the red truth. Erica was technically granted the ability to use the red truth, so she could have come up with an argument if she needed to, but she didn't because Burncastle indulged her. in my version, that was the particular terminology that they used. And I'm saying that because if we're going back to the whole like Battler isn't like the enemy in the games or whatever, the use of the term indulge could in this particular translation could imply that that isn't necessarily the case point blank at all. It's just that she's simply indulging in Erica's fantasies, quote unquote, of how the game went. So if we're following that logic, I'm pretty sure that like the only reason that it didn't work for Battler was because he didn't have a witch backing him up to indulge him, because Virgilia wasn't involved in the court. So the fact that he didn't have evidence to like convinced Berncastle to indulge him was why his evidence didn't come to fruition.
Can you say that the very last bit of what you said again? Because I like sort of followed, but then I didn't understand.
So, damn, you're gonna make me explain it again?
Not the whole thing, just the ending bit, the last bit.
Just that, like, since Virgilia wasn't technically a member of the court, Battler didn't have a witch that could use the Red Truth or indulge him as Berncastle was with Erica. So he wasn't actually able to use his Red Truth because he didn't really have somebody that was on like the jury or whatever, if you could argue that Byrne and Lambda are the jury, to actually like indulge him in that Red Truth.
But
whereas Erica wouldn't have necessarily needed to provide the evidence because Byrne was on Erica's side. It was a biased jury. So at that point, they had gotten so far into it that Erica didn't necessarily need to provide evidence to be indulged in being like granted the red text.
Okay, I thought I understood you, and then you explained more things, and it felt like you over-explained for me. You lost me again with that. Here's what it sounded like you're saying: because Virgilia was not a part of the court case, it doesn't matter. Battler's not able to use that red text because Virgilia is not part of the case, even though or not part of the trial, even though he was granted the right to use that red text. And so it didn't work for him because Virgilia is not there to use or to allow him to use the red text.
To use the red text. That's the whole thing.
Well, the idea that we were presented was that Virgilia had given him the right to use that one red text. The problem with the red text was not whether or not he was allowed to use it. The problem with the red text in this case, as explained by Delanor cutting it down very swiftly, was that you cannot solve the case, or the cult. It was one of the rules where it's like you can't use supernatural abilities.
Right, because Erica wasn't using supernatural abilities. Byrne was using them for her. But Battler didn't have that privilege because Virgilia wasn't using the red text for him. She had given it to him. So he didn't actually have the privilege to use that supernatural ability because he wasn't a witch.
Okay, again, I understand. Again, I understand why Battler was not allowed to use the red text there. That's not the point that I'm getting at. The point that I'm getting at is that why we would be offering up the red text related to Kraus being dead and then just not elaborating on that, but we're just using that as a statement of fact for how Kraus could not have been one of the people in the middle of the trial. This is not like...
One of Byrne's red truths, right?
Right. Or that was Byrne who said that red truth. So, that was one of those things where I got confused because, I can accept... I'm perfectly fine with the logic of Battler not being able to use the red text in his case. I just got confused retroactively when I thought back to how Berncastle just states that Kraus was dead, and we use that as a reason to not assume that Kraus was one of the killers in the middle of the case. And she only did that after Nazi refused the plea deal to accuse Kraus as being the killer. And so, and therefore, because
Byrne
she would not...
That.
Yeah, Byrne. And so because Byrne would... Yeah, because Nazi would not accuse Kraus of being the killer, Byrne revealed in the red that Kraus... died soon after Natsuhi talked with him on the phone. And that was the one deal for me where I was just like, okay, so I understand Berncastle is allowed to say whatever she wants in red. It just kind of feels like if I'm Lambda Delta, okay, and I'm going against Berncastle in this game, that's kind of bullshit that you can just say that with no evidence to support it. That's something to where, I'd be bringing in some shit to refute you from bringing that up without some kind of additional evidence with that in this kind of case with this. Because with all things prior, we were having Erica bring up enough evidence from herself that it's elevated to red text. But in that case, we're just having Burn Castle stated, and then we just move on from that with just going back to blaming Natsuki. This is all me to say, like, this is not me saying the story's bullshit. That was just me personally, like, looking at that and being like, well, then why did that happen? If, like, we could have, like, why did we allow this to happen? And obviously, it makes sense to me if it's something like your case where it's just like, it's a fucking kangaroo court, like Battler says. Okay, this is all bullshit. You guys, all of you are collectively trying to blame Natsuki. You guys are all trying to collectively blame Natsuki. You'll enforce that rule when it comes to me, but it won't enforce it when it comes to that bullshit related to Kraus. Okay, I'm not allowed to use Kinzo. I'm not allowed to use Kraus. I'm not allowed to use like myself. Like, what am I allowed to use? Like, well, I mean, eventually he uses himself, but I mean that, yeah. So that's a whole thing. Listen, we're not there yet. We're not there yet. We're not there yet. So, okay, the trial of the century. Okay, do we have any other details we want to bring up before we get to the aftermath of the trial of the century and then the retrial of the century? Okay, so the aftermath of the trial, we kind of snap back to, I guess you would call it the conclusion of the episode in like the for the pieces on the board, where Erika in the quote unquote real world on Rokunjima points at and accuses Natsuki of the crimes, and they begin to explain basically everything that we've said, and people like Ava are just flipping out on Natsuki. I think Ava is like beating her repeatedly, or at least slapping her a few times, and nobody's doing anything because it's like, if you know, they assume that's an appropriate reaction if you're just accused of killing somebody's child. So they're doing all that, and then Erika's pointing out, not only do I have all that stuff I said, but also I have testimony from other members of the family who say you've also been sleeping with Kinzo and shit like that. And it's like, oh, okay. So other people in the family have been talking shit about Natsuki. And I think like the camera pans over to like Ava, and I'm just immediately like, okay, so Ava is probably thinking a lot of, that makes sense for Ava to be accusing Natsuki of sleeping with Kinzo and shit, I think, because Ava just blanket does not like Natsuki. And like other members of the family probably had other issues maybe, but Ava, I think, was like the most upfront with like we were shown as the reader more so that Ava had all these issues with Natsuki. And
as you do.
You know, and so the story that we're presented, because we're presented with like a written down verdict court document, very official. Okay, it was a very official looking court summary.
Citations and everything.
Citations and like page numbers, and Burncastle's notes are incorporated into it. It's got document numbers at the end and shit, public filings. You can see this up to like, what was it, 18 months later or something like that. You can read these documents.
I think time has passed.
Yeah, that time has passed. I don't think we can read them in public anymore, but no, yeah. So let's see if I can remember the series of events that were outlined there. Kinzo, I'm not gonna be able to remember all of it, but essentially it was like Natsuki committed these crimes, sleeping with Kinzo and then doing it with Kinzo, committing the murders with Kinzo.
I think it mentioned that like she dressed up as Beatrice.
Oh yeah, she dressed up as Beatrice for them to fuck.
Yeah.
Was one of the things. I was like, whoa, that's a detail. Okay.
I know cosplay was a thing back can.
Okay, so yeah, because Natsuki was forced into unwanted marriage, she held a grudge against the family in general, plotted to take over the fortune, get revenge, and basically started this by fucking Kinzo, and even using
with all the money, so,
even using Beatrice cosplay to like entice him more and shit like that. And then later they found the hidden gold, and so she began to put her plan in motion, started killing all the cousins, and originally planned to pin the crime on Battler. I don't think that worked for even a split second. Literally nobody assumed that at any point in time that Battler killed all these cousins. In for the pieces, at least. They did not assume at all that Battler was the killer. And so that plan didn't work.
He's just a little guy. He can't kill.
Yeah, he's just a little detective.
Yeah.
Apparently not. Apparently not. But Genji was supposedly slaughtered because he found out about her plan, either from her telling her or something to that effect, and he was not going to keep it a secret, so he was killed. Or maybe she just assumed he might say things, so she just killed him. And what else was there? Hideyoshi was killed just because at that point, she just started killing family members one by one, and he just happened to be the first one. That was the assumption there. And Natsuki tried to carry out the crimes, killed her husband.
Anybody would want to kill Hideyoshi.
No, that's bullshit. Why did Hideyoshi have to die in all this?
Exactly.
So,
He dies every time, doesn't he?
Maybe.
There might have been one episode where... No, I don't think he lives. I'm sorry, Hideyoshi. You'll live one of these days. Or be the killer. I'm rooting for him to be a killer one of these loops.
I think I mentioned that last year where I was like, what if they pull a fast one on us and Hideyoshi has been the culprit this whole time?
And then I said, no, it's Hideyoshi and Sakataro.
I will accept any court evidence, falsified or otherwise, any paid off testimony that proves that Hideyoshi was the killer. I will believe it. I will believe in witches if we say Hideyoshi's the killer.
I don't want Hideyoshi to be the killer, and honestly, I don't want Battler to be the culprit. Ultimately, I don't.
Sakataro's fine though.
I don't either.
I think if Sakataro snapped and crashed out, I would respect that. You know.
Sakataro's
Can we get
valid.
that super muscular Sakataro that was at the end?
Yeah, let's go. Yeah.
I've only 21% my power, Maria.
He's gonna send Super Tucker.
Big shot, Sakataro.
Okay, so she went to kill all the cousins and all that, and then there's timing bullshit. They were like, at this time she did this thing or whatever. She returned here, I'm in here. I don't care about all that. Kinzo was supposedly hiding somewhere. They spent the rest of their night together, supposedly sleeping together probably. And then Kinzo went into hiding somewhere. And then Kinzo supposedly is the one who slipped out and moved all the bodies when the bodies went missing at some point. And the bodies have not been found. And then they planned to frame Battler. Didn't work at all for even a second. And when they became aware of the crime, Natsuki stayed hidden until they moved him out. And then they found her buttons in the closet. And they just eventually just use all this kind of stuff, and then literally everybody in the family just doesn't like her at this point and just suspects her, and then it just makes her confess to the crimes. But specifically, she doesn't confess to those crimes. She confesses to the crime of killing the son from 19 years ago. I think it was 19 years ago, allegedly.
Yes.
Where the baby that was given to her by Kinzo, because her and Kraus at the time could not have a child, and so Kinzo tried to give her a baby and said, you will just pretend this is your child for the family's status or whatever. We are shown in more detail about that. She was just on a walk with the servant lady. It's not that she sent the servant lady off and then she accidentally fell off the cliff or whatever. She admits that she pushed off the servant. Instead of helping her from falling off there, she just pushes them off. And it didn't sound like it sounded like she raced down, but I don't think she actually saw the bodies or something like that. But maybe she did. But essentially, they went to talk about it, and she felt guilty about it ever since. They lied to the family of the servant, saying that she died in an accident, and then when that husband of hers or whatever died later on, she apologized at his grave and something to that effect. And she's felt sorry about it ever since, and she's felt miserable about that, and now she feels like she's being tortured about that kind of stuff by the person on the phone, which may or may not be in her head, who knows. And she's only really confessing to that and not to the other killings. And then that's where Battler shows up, and he's like, no, I got this. And then we go into the tea party stuff, I think, with the after party that happens after the episode concludes, because then we're shown the results, which was essentially 6 people were killed. Well, was it 7 if you count Kinzo being dead from the beginning? But essentially only 7 people died, and the rest survived, or it doesn't say survived. It said alive when game called off. That's what it specifically says in my version of it.
Yes.
Not that the game was won or whatever, or that they survived, is that they were alive when the game was called off. So essentially, they could have died afterwards, but that's not for us to see, here at least. So the Tea Party stuff, Erica's all like, ha, I won, I did good, didn't I, Master Burncastle? And then Burncastle's like, hell yeah, you did. You're a witch now. You're going to become the Witch of Truth. Here's a cool scythe, which it does look cool. Okay. I thought we were going to be seeing her swing that shit around in the middle of the trial. I was like so hyped for that. And then it was just like, okay, here's your scythe afterwards. And she's like, oh, hoo hoo. And it like, I'm like, it looks cool. It's like the cover of the omnibus and it looks amazing. I like it. And she's like all happy, and she's like, okay, so now we're going to go off to these other fragments for like centuries or millennia until we meet again. In the meantime, you're going to be in charge of this fragment. You will be the game master now. You can title episode 6 whatever you want. She calls it Checkmate of the Golden Witch, which is a little cheesy, I think, which I'm glad they did not end up going with. And then...
question, though. Why is it called Checkmate if she's already dead?
Well, I mean... Wait, what is the actual episode 6 called? It's called... Dawn of the Golden Witch. Okay, yeah. Dawn. Which...
It was going to be Checkmate, and then it's Dawn.
Yeah, okay. So... what else is there? So...
Hey, Jamlock is a chess reference. Can you believe it?
But it's a chess reference at a time where it's not accurate, though. So it's no good. It's no good at all. She was not in Checkmate. Okay? She's not in Checkmate. She was in Check. It's not Checkmate. This is different things. And so...
Look, okay, as explained, okay, they're very liberal with the use of chess terminology.
Again, like I said, the most that we've gotten towards... like chess references these days is just the floor. The floor pattern everywhere now is just checkerboards, which is like the most we get. And I understand why. It's because they're all metaphorically pieces upon this game board. But we haven't even gotten somebody saying let's flip over the chessboard in like 3 episodes now. Okay, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. Where's Kyrie? Kyrie was still alive. Why is the Kyrie said let's flip over the chessboard? Okay, what's Kyrie's opinion on all this bullshit going on? Okay, where are the facts? Where's the logic? Where's the deduction? Okay. Burncastle and Lambda Delta have their Yuri departure moments. Okay, they're saying about how this is why we love each other. We're gonna go search around these other things for potentially millennia. Meet up again at the next episode. Fuck around, find out a little bit. Erica here is gonna do whatever the fuck she feels like as the Witch of Truth, and then Battler shows up. He's had the realization of things, and I think I might have as well.
Oh.
I think I might have as well. If I'm going based off of what we're being shown at that time and some ideas I had beforehand, I feel like
episode 5 is very revealing.
So, okay. I will say how do I want to word this? Okay. Essentially, he's trying to work out what was happening. Now he's like, okay, so pretty much this game's done. I can think about this match however long I want. He has a discussion with Virgilia, and Virgilia basically says this is basically like the anime Love is War. She doesn't say it like that, but I am thinking it the whole time she's saying it. Where she's like, this mystery is basically like that, you know, it's a little bit of like, okay, I like them.
The Vocaloid song.
Okay. Because she's just like, you know, it's just like romance, you know, you have somebody you like and you don't know if they like you or not, so you don't know like when's the right time to say it or whatever. Does it just naturally develop? Does one of you have to be the one to step up? And I'm just thinking, okay, so this is basically like Love is War. They're just trying to trick the other person into admitting they like them or whatever. But essentially, anyways, it's all a metaphor to basically say that we are trying to have like a little game to see if Battler will realize, you know, the secrets of these things, what his sin was, who Beatrice is, and all this kind of stuff. And when it seems like it clicks for him and he unlocks like Warlock mode, we're shown like a couple little side images of like panels or whatever. And I think there is where it pretty much clicked for me. And so I'm going to posit my theory here, and it might be complete bullshit, but I'm going to posit what's going through my head at least when I'm looking at those kind of stuff. And that is that what was it, 6 years ago? So Battler is how old? Battler is 19, 18?
I'm not going to answer any of your questions right
I
now.
think-
Just
I
go
think-
for it.
Have we not established how old Battler is yet? Is this not a thing that we've established?
We have, but
Okay, then what's the problem with establishing
because
that?
of his birth, because we have questions of his birth,
Okay,
even though
so
he is
don't
said
worry
to
about.
be 18.
Okay, don't worry about the whatever the actual truth of his age is. I just want to
Okay,
like
he is
know
said to
what
be
we were
18.
established. Okay, so we were established before he was 18. Okay, so then
Because of the incident with Natsuki's baby, I'm running on the assumption that he's 19.
I mean that could be in either way, because we're shown the panels that I'm specifically focused on is when we're looking at a younger battler. There is a page where it shows a younger battler with somebody else, and they're like locking pinkies, like a pinky promise thing. And my assumption is that this is somebody that Battler met 6 years ago, probably made some promise to them that they would be back, and then he was not back for 6 years, and that person was probably Beatrice. And that's why she keeps saying, like, you forgot your promise, you're a sinner, you're a liar, I'm not trusting you, and shit like that. It was probably, you probably at some point met up with Beatrice or somebody, and they were like, you know, a part of that whole like secret mansion, you're not allowed to leave situation. And Battler promised to come back and see them again, and then they weren't back for like 6 years afterwards or after a certain point, and that's why the Beatrice now in this case is like very upset with him for like not remembering this promise, when in reality it was probably like a 14-year-old kid met a random other kid and was like, yeah, I'll come see you again next year, and then just like didn't come back for 6 years, so completely forgot about it or whatever. That's what's been going on well, actually he wouldn't be 14, he'd be like 12 or whatever, but that's what basically was going on in my head when I'm looking at those things. Don't know if that's even remotely the case, but that is the assumption that is going on in my head when I'm being shown those things, and then being told immediately after that being shown those things means that Battler has awoken to the truth of the matter and that kind of stuff. That's what's going on in my head. Whether or not that's true, I don't know yet, but that's my current going theory. Yeah, what's up? What's your question?
Wasn't it mentioned before that the sin didn't involve him and Beatrice specifically?
In red text in episode 4, the sin I am now demanding that you remember is not between Ushiromiya Battler and Beatrice. 6 years ago, no person called Beatrice existed for me.
Okay, so then we could just be changing names. Like, Beatrice is just a title. Like, this is not like a... Beatrice is just a title.
That is true.
And
that is true. As we have learned from the Kuadorian veto, it is a title.
Yeah, and now we're getting all these questions about, like, Battler, like, you know, Battler's identity and stuff like that. So red text like that does not really concern me with this kind of stuff.
Okay.
In that case, who
personally,
is Beto?
So I don't know the full details of who exactly Beto is, like, but I can understand something like, hey, you promised to see me again next year, right? You promised to do this thing, right? And then 12-year Battler's like, yeah, and then he like doesn't come back for 6 years, and naturally he's forgotten in like his growing up in his teens or whatever. He has forgotten that kind of stuff because he's dealing with all this other bullshit. I don't know.
So pissed if it's something that's that simple.
I mean, because my theories earlier on related to Beatrice was that the Kumadorian mansion was like Kinzo was essentially keeping his mistress there, perhaps against her will, perhaps not. I don't know, but essentially they would have had some kind of love child or something like that, and that child would also be kept there, and he would be like raising her there. And or several children for all I know, and that like
there's more than one
somebody that somebody that Battler meets at some point there gives a promise to them, and then he doesn't come back for 6 years, and so that person who is potentially, in my mind, like stuck in this mansion, this secret mansion against their will, and is probably being subjected to weird, potentially grooming shit by Kinzo for all I know. I don't know if it's necessarily sexual, but maybe it's like, I'm trying to like get you to be this ideal child that I idealize or whatever, that none of my family's been able to do, or some weird shit like that. And maybe Battler has promised to see them again because they feel like very trapped and alone and scared, and that 1 year, you know, Battler will be back next year and maybe he'll help me get out of here, and then he's not, because he just leaves for 6 years, doesn't come back. I don't know, but that's the theory going on in my head. I don't know if that's even remotely close to it, but that's what's going on in my head.
In 1967, in a hidden mansion on Rokkenjima, Beatrice existed as a human, and then she died.
I mean, again, yeah, it could be a case of like that was the mother and now this is the child that Battler ends up meeting or something like that, right? I don't know how the years line up, but like I can come up with these kind of things. And like, I'm not here to say you need to refute my theory right now or whatever.
I'm just repeating Red because I'm not going to refute anything right now.
What sounds like you are very specifically saying some things for very specific reasons based on what I'm saying. I feel like you feel like you're saying nothing, but you're saying a lot. And I'm not like I'm just here like
all right, I'll read some more Red. Only the victims are inside the rooms and other people exist outside the room.
I'm not even saying Beatrice is involved in the murders. Like, just to be clear, I'm not saying Beatrice is involved with these murders at all. I'm just saying that that's probably related to the promise. I don't know exactly if Beatrice is related to the murders at all. I'm just saying at this point in time, based on the things that I've been given and the ideas that I have in my mind about what's going on with the hidden mansion, that is probably just another child of some kind that's been trapped there that Battler hung out with at some point, promised he'd come back, did not, and then they probably died afterwards. I don't know.
Andy, what's your theory? You were trying to speak up.
No, actually, what I was gonna say, I can write down what I said in my server, but what I was gonna say was, this is the advantage of not thinking, is that Ari saying things that me can't impact me, because I have no thoughts.
No!
Damn.
That's the downside of -2 hours of sleep, because I still don't understand any of it.
Let me read through, because most of what I was talking about during this manga was just gushing about the art style. And some of the panel composition, like the scene where they put both of Erica's hands on the side, like in panels on the side when she's like, use the red text or the blue text, it won't work. I was like, oh, like that's a pretty cool, way of demonstrating that. Obviously I was mad that they're in love or whatever. That fucking pissed me off.
Elaborate?
I did say exactly here, good lord, dude, Natsuki has got to give up this crest emblazoned on her heart shit. It's like to flip the chessboard stuff all over again. Shut up, girl. And then immediately after that, like as I was typing that out, was the reveal that Kinzo had not ever said that. And I was like, oh wait, never mind guys, it was for plot reasons. Oh, every single time that Battler is like, no, I will defend Beto's honor. I'm like, dude, just like let this bitch die. Like she's not having fun anymore. Like she wants to rest. Just leave her alone. And then I was telling Nate about the whole sleeping with kids thing. Chad has such a really funny panel about it.
Should I send it over? It's very funny.
Okay, this is the exchange. I said, wait, do we have proof that Battler wasn't the one making the phone calls? Again, I was still in the middle of reading this. That's why I don't send this stuff to the spoiler zone. I send it to my own server. And Shadow was like, no, I don't believe so. What's on your mind? And I was like, I'm trying to keep in mind that Ari said that we're supposed to have it solved by the end of episode 4, because if Battler is 19, that would mean his age would align when the baby fell off the cliff, which means it's reasonable that he is Natsuki's fake son and would align with the possibility that Beto is his mom in the form of Natsuki, because I kind of got hung up on the fact that Natsuki was dressing up as Beto, and I was like, oh, is that like some kind of hint that Natsuki is Beto, and that's why Natsuki has this like really weird fabricated version of like all of the demons and witches in her head, is because like she does become Beto later or something like that. I don't know where the fuck I was going with that, because then I got really, and then because immediately after I said that was the scene with Battler going like, no good at all, standing over Natsuki, and then she screams at the end of like whatever the third chapter was, and I was like, what the fuck? He said the thing we know what he's up to. I thought Delanar was cute a lot in this. There were a lot of good panels with her. I got the shot that said, you can't keep going unless you admit we are in love, and I said, kill yourself.
Jesus.
Toxic.
Jesus.
And then I said, Ayo, Trans Battler confirmed because he became a witch.
And that is why my theory is that Battler is Beatrice. This is Battler.
Yep. It's possible. Beatrice is both Battler and his own mother. Okay, this is. It's a title, so it works. It's a
big trans metaphor, okay?
It could be.
Which is so funny because Ari, if you think back to like 3 months ago, I had DM'd you talking about it being a trans metaphor.
For context, Andy at the very beginning of Umineko asked me, wouldn't it be so funny if Umineko is a trans metaphor?
Let me see if I can find the screenshot, because I was talking about it with my friend Violet. And Violet had mentioned Kaiba, not Seto Kaiba. There's like an anime called Kaiba.
Yeah.
That was also apparently like a trans allegory or something like that.
Okay, hold on. While you do that,
done with Umineko, so you never know. Trans Battler will be
hold on. So while Nyan finds that, I like to point out this funny exchange between me and Nyan.
Oh god.
Okay, you're gonna make me download these things and put them on the stream. You're gonna make me do all these kind of things. Okay, all right. Okay, Naya Vega says, "What? This was not the curveball I was expecting, and I cannot breathe. At Nate, I'm crying. Erica is saying Nazi had an affair on Kraus with fucking Kinzo. Crying emoji. Context: Nazi is Kraus's wife. Kraus is Kinzo's son. Conclusion: Nazi slept with his son's dad. I'm crying. This is wild." And then Shadow goes, "As you do. Who wouldn't want a piece of this man?" And it's Kinzo's face saying, "Jumping out the window on a mad night like this is nothing more than small fun to go with a drink." That is.
Here we go.
Listen,
I sent it to the main channel.
I'm so kind of sad that Kinzo's supposedly dead at the beginning of all of these episodes, because I'm just like,
He's so
man,
funny.
all of these idealized versions of Kinzo that we're seeing are all awesome. I want, except for like the backstory we got of real Kinzo like being highly misogynist and like beating like his children and shit like that. But all these like crazy like, I'm gonna jump out the window and yes, you kids are fucking useless. I'm gonna kill you all for not solving my epitaph, like, and screaming at his paintings in his room. That shit's awesome. Okay, I want crazy old man Kinzo. I want more of that and less of misogynist beat your children Kinzo. I don't think that's too much to ask for.
Yeah, I had actually sent it in the main chat, and I said my favorite trans allegory is Kaiba 2007, The Matrix, and Umineko.
Based.
Can't believe Umineko was a trans allegory the whole time. When did I send that to? What the fuck?
Okay, so we got all these theories about Battler. We have eating disorder Battler. We have trans Battler. We have Battler is Beatrice. We have Battler is his own mom. We have
and yet none about Beato.
we have. Well, I mean, there's two of those are about Beato. Okay, Battler is Beato, and Beato is Battler's mom. That's two.
We need more theories about Beato.
When are we getting to the real theory? Okay, Battler was clearly sleeping with Kinzo. We all know this. That's how he got back in the family. We all know.
Oh, so personally, my favorite is Battler is Kinzo.
Dude. Well, I mean, it sounds after he solved the epitaph, he is basically Kinzo now, and now he's even more so Kinzo because now he's the Golden Warlock is how my version reads it. Okay, you can say Golden Witch, you can say Golden Sorcerer, you could say whatever. Okay, but
endless sorcerer.
He's the endless.
He's technically
endless warlock.
You could actually technically call him Beatrice because he is. Just like, because Beato took the title from Virgilia when that was passed down, and now he has it from Beato. So he is the next endless witch.
Oh,
like how Anjay is in the future. She is the last Beatrice. So he is technically
You just reminded me by mentioning Virgilia's name. I had updated one of my theories in my head, okay, while I was reading this, and I had updated it to be Beatrice is not Battler's mom. Virgilia is Battler's mom at some point. That was an update that I had, and maybe.
But Virgilia is also Kuma's
I don't know. I don't know how. Hey, I don't have to explain how. I don't have to. We don't have to explain how. Okay.
Sleeping with the help.
We don't
No,
listen.
not like Cougar, no less.
We're presenting our blue text. Okay. We don't have to present evidence towards it. We just gotta present the hypothesis. Okay. It's the witch's job to present red text. Okay. We don't have to explain shit. Anyways. Okay. The Endless Warlock. Battler's real entrance finally happens. Everybody's ready to call the verdict and move on. And Battler shows up, pulls out like a sword from the ground. What was this, a spear? This was like a spear of like truth or whatever. And he suddenly gets a cape. And
it's called Peak.
It's called Peak. I do agree. It looked amazing. I was like all hyped for it at that point. I was like, finally, Battler's here. It's no good at all. He's finally able to talk through their bullshit. Okay, all these evil little witches scurrying around and fucking around with all this bullshit. Okay, now it's time for the real shit. The Endless Warlock is here with his cool cape, and he's ready to reveal all this bullshit. And by reveal all this bullshit, I mean counteract their bullshit with other bullshit that they can't deny. That's essentially our strategy here.
True.
Because essentially, like, hey, we don't have to definitively prove that our theory is correct. We just have to present another theory that they can't refute, which, again, was what Beatrice should have been trying to do all along. But she was failing at it because she's a dogshit lawyer and also Lambda Delta Spawn, but that's a whole different thing. Battler's here to show us how it's done, okay? And the main thing that he argued was, all I have to do is prove that there is another culprit, someone other than Aunt Natsuhi, that could have done this. And so we kind of do like a little run through of each of the Nox's rules for his arguments, and I felt like it was cool how we were doing it. But essentially, he was leading it towards him saying, "I could have been the one to do this," and you can't really say I could not have been the one to do this. Even with the Nox's rules, I can wiggle my way around the interpretations of it because. What was it? One of the rules is that you can interpret these things in any way. Because there was a discussion beforehand about Nox's rules and how, like, people started using it in an elitist way. But, you know, the point of this is still that these are guidelines for, like, mystery stories to, like, make them more intriguing to the reader so that it's actually, like, solvable for them and things like that. But they're not, like, cold, hard rules. Many other stories, you know, deviate from them. And this is why we get stories with like unreliable narrators and things of that case, where it's like, all Battler has to do is just, cast doubt on their definition of like him being a detective or not, and then proving that he could technically be in areas. There were some parts of this that I was kind of confused of whether or not we were going backwards on some things. I forget where we landed with Kinzo, whether he was arguing Kinzo was dead the whole time, or if he was arguing... I think he was arguing Kinzo was dead the whole time. Yeah, because we bring up that Kinzo's dead at the start of every game as like a fighting against her. Because she was trying to... Erica's thing was trying to argue that Kinzo helped hide the bodies while Natsuhi couldn't move them. So Kinzo was the one who hid the bodies. But one of the details, I forget if this was during this after story or in the middle of the case. One of the details was very important towards this, and that was that after the first victims died, their bodies were never moved afterwards. Which I think was supposed to imply that the bodies who had their necks cut that we saw in the beds were not actually dead at that time. And I think Battler's explanation for that was, well, technically speaking, you, Erica, did not actually look at the dead bodies at the time, so you were just taking your interpretation of how the bodies looked at the time based on other people's testimony or whatever, something to that effect. But it was something that basically said the bodies did not actually have their necks cut in that way at the time that you saw them in those beds. I think was what was explained. I don't remember. But essentially what we're getting at is the bodies were not actually dead when they were in the bed because they were moved out of the bed afterwards, which implies that they were not dead when they were in the bed. I believe that was the logic that was happening with that. Correct me if I'm wrong. If anybody in here remembers anything about anything, anybody? Are we still here?
Imagine thinking.
Oh, that's
Couldn't
true.
be me.
That's true. Well, I mean, okay.
What were we talking about?
We're talking
The
about Battler.
idea that the bodies were moved
talking about the
only after
retrial.
they were dead?
Yeah, well, the retrial in general, where Battler's showing up and explaining his side of things. And one of the main things was talking about how the bodies could not have been moved after they were dead. Because we say and read at some point that they were dead. And they haven't moved afterwards after they were dead. And so therefore, because all of these people were not moved after their death, that means that when they were first discovered by Battler, they were not actually dead yet. That, I think, is the implication of that statement. And that was how we essentially defeated Erica there. We did not definitively state that kind of thing in red, that they were not dead at the moment that Battler discovered them. But the point of the statements was just to say that Kinzo could not have moved the bodies because he was dead at the start, and 2, they could not have vanished after they were discovered because they were not moved after their death. It's confusing me the more I try to think about it now, because now I'm just like, were they not moved at all?
You know what I'm going to say in response to that?
You don't remember anything?
Don't think.
But we can't even just trust the red text, because now it's all a thing with like interpretations of red text, and we're using this to deceive people. I just kept being reminded of like the whole Erica looking at all the diary entries of Nazis saying there's not a single case here of you saying you loved your husband, so you must have hated him and wanted him dead. Where it's like, well, we have all these red truths that point this one way.
Interpretation of the red text the whole thing from the beginning?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is a whole thing that we've had from the start, but now it's like a whole thing where like, I understand why it's like this, and I'm perfectly fine with it being like this. I'm just saying it's hard for me to keep up when we have the trial and then the retrial and then all that. I don't know what I'm supposed to believe, and I don't know who actually believes these things anymore, if we're just making up shit. Just to be like, okay, let's just try one more game. Episode 6, I could solve this, okay? We did present Kinzo's dead body. We presented a dead body. No explanation for how we found it, but we just showed him. Here's the dead body, Kinzo. We had no way to properly prove that it was his dead body, but that's when Battler got to use his golden truth, which I did not register that it was supposed to be a different type of truth at first. It had a different font, and I saw that it was all fancy, but I didn't know if that was just because it was a super action panel. But it is apparently his golden truth. I guarantee that this is the corpse of Kinzo Ushiromiya. And the explanation we're given for the golden truth is that it's only granted to the Lord of this world. Only the Game Master can use it, so essentially he's the Game Master now. And it's the divine truth derived through different means than the red text. Its power is equal to the red truth, sometimes inferior, but other times superior. What that means, I have no fucking idea. But vibes.
Basically, when he realized the truth of who Bito is, why she created this, and what his sin was, he has fully come to the truth of everything in the previous episodes. He ascended to be the Territory Lord because this was originally the game created for him by Bito. So he ascended to Territory Lord. So he is not the Game Master of this episode still, but he is still of that rank kind of now.
Oh, okay. So he's not the Game Master, but he's like of the same level. All right, I understand.
Yeah, because he is the Territory Lord. This is his game now. Like, the entire, like...
Fragment, I think, is what they would refer to them as.
Yeah, the entire, like, chess set, essentially. So while this game that they are playing right now is not the one that he created, the chessboard itself belongs to him now. If we are to use chess analogies.
Do we still use those around here? I don't even know. I don't know.
They do more in the VN, so I...
Is that allowed?
Is it allowed? Nobody tells me these things. Okay. All right. You won't stand for them to be speaking all this bullshit against his side of the arguments. Okay, he's here with his golden truth. He's ascended. We have ascended Warlock Chuny Battler. He's ready to argue his side of the thing. And his theory is just, I was the baby from 19 years ago. That was me, and my goal was to frame Nazi for the murder. It was all an act of vengeance to have her convicted. I was the one who did all of this. Kinzo was dead. Kinzo had nothing to do with it. It was all me, and only me, and you can't prove otherwise. Or at the very least, if you can prove otherwise, you're not thinking about that right now, because you're just like, this is bullshit that he was able to even do that. Because that's what it felt like. It felt like they were just so shocked at the fact that he had golden truth as a thing now that Erica was just like, okay, I guess I die. And then she died. And then Castle was just like, you're fucking pathetic. I can't do anything with you. What the fuck is the point of you? And then Lambda Delta's just laughing at her like, how does it feel like to have literally everything handed to you and then you just lost instantly? Does it feel good? No? Does it feel good? Oh, I love that. Yeah, give me that face. Yeah, let me see that. Oh, you want to cry some more? Yeah, thank you. Like Lambda Delta was having fun with how much pain was going on everybody's side. Okay, it was very amusing for her. She was having fun with it. And then Battler sets up the 6th game. And he does not officially title it in the aftermath of this, but we know that the title of it is supposed to be Dawn of the Golden Witch, okay? So now he's on a mission to take over the game. This game is elevated from Erica's side winning to a tie, essentially, right? It was essentially even, and so this match is considered a tie, which means we're just going to go to game 6. I think that's how that works.
Yes.
We're going straight to 6, yeah. Game 6.
When I sit back after all this, and I think about all this, I think to myself, wasn't Berncastle supposed to be a stand-in for Battler's side? Wasn't the whole point of Berncastle supposed to be on, metaphorically speaking at least, for like his side of the game? Who won in the end? Like, I understand we made this a tie.
Burn and Lambda's boredom, not were the ones quenching. That was the one that won.
I mean, yeah, but I'm still just like, okay, but in the end, they like. Sure, it might not have been the correct truth, but they did what Battler couldn't do for several games, which is prove that witches are bullshit. So I don't know. I just listen. I love Battler. Okay, I love him.
But
I listen.
No.
Where are we going now? Are we just becoming Chuny Kinzo now? What is going on? Are we? Is next episode just going to be him like obsessing over Beatrice and witches, and he's going to be super occult mode now? What is going on? What is going to happen with this shit?
Episode 6, Obsession of the Witch.
Well, because in my mind,
the full truth, which is now definitely achievable.
Here's like, okay, my prediction with episode 6, knowing absolutely nothing about episode 6, I don't even remember what the cover of episode 6 looks like. Okay, based on yeah, I won't. But based on how it ends, and Kinzo having his like whole cape now, warlock status or whatever, and all this stuff, and the title of it being Dawn of the Golden Witch, I'm just like, okay, so this next one's going to heavily involve Beatrice in some way in the story, probably to the effect of like. Battler is now Chuny occult obsessed in like the next iteration of the game or some shit, and he is now trying to either actively solve the epitaph or I don't know what. But this just weird ideas come into my head based on where this like tea party seemed to have gone towards the end and how we like wrapped up episode 5. I don't know. What predictions do you guys have for episode 6? What do you think's gonna happen?
I think it's gonna be cool.
I hope so. It says you've already read it, apparently. I saw that on the list before we
So
started.
episode 6 is actually the manga. It's the episode that I remembered the most. Because when we started this reread, I had just started my VN reread of it, and I had not touched Umineko since middle school. And episode 6 was the one that just stayed with me the longest for some reason. It's probably my favorite one, but it's still there's a lot of memorable parts in it.
Here's a question that I don't remember if we ever asked you before. Were you able to solve these mysteries?
No. I was in middle school. I was 12. Are you kidding me?
Well, I mean, I would have been able to. I've already solved
I was like
them.
13. I didn't even understand. I'll get to episodes. Once we get to episode 7, there's parts
maybe
that I didn't even understand. Completely went over my head because I was just too young to understand even the concepts of things we will get to.
Did you have any wild theories in your times reading that you want to share with the class back in those times? Did you have any wild theories yourself?
No, because at that point I was so young. I was just consuming it rather than thinking about it.
I understand. You're just like Anne. I understand. You were just like Anne.
I was in middle school.
So are we. It's fine.
I was just not actively thinking about it. I was just consuming it because I was like, I like witches. Oh, there's blood and stuff. I'm in middle school and like that stuff, like I was not really.
You were a girl in middle school. You were into the occult.
As every middle school girl is. Am I wrong?
Man, I feel like I'm being insulted here. Okay,
I'm just saying my experience.
I'm more shouting at Steve and Shadow in the fucking book club chat.
Oh shit. What are they saying? You gotta read if you're calling them out, you gotta read whatever they're talking shit about.
I feel like I'm being insulted, okay? I have stuff that I actually get a grade if I think about it, okay? I'm not getting a grade for this, so I don't think about it as hard as I think about my textbooks.
No, this is grades. There's gonna be a test in the end. Yeah, you're gonna be graded on this in the end. You get graded based on the insanity of your theories, of course. Yeah.
Oh my god, I just it's not the top of my cognitive priority list.
Why not?
I have a job.
Okay.
And
what
school.
if you were hired as a detective to solve the Rokenjima murders?
I would be fired day one.
Fair enough.
Look, I just have more important things going on in my life. And I should not be insulted for paying. I'm actually only paying $1,400 in tuition.
We're just asking you to think.
That's a lot to ask. We can't do that. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot.
I actually have an essay due at 4 tomorrow that I haven't finished yet.
Bro, why are you not doing that yet?
If it was about, because I also have an assignment due at 1 tomorrow that is 9 illustrations. That's what that Battler drawing was for. I have to have 9 different composition illustrations due by tomorrow. I still have one more that I have to finish.
Sisters of Purgatory.
Wait, how many more do you have to do?
I have one more.
Okay. Draw Battler eating. Draw him eating.
I have one more drawing and I have an essay to write by tomorrow. So I'm sorry that thinking about who the fuck Beatrice is was at the top of my cognitive priority.
Easy. Your essay, just write about your number one Umineko theory. That is your essay. Dude,
what's crazy is I'm actually writing about Christian mythos, and how the Tower of Babel story in a particular writing of the Bible compares to a retelling of the Tower of Babylon story. And I just got told that I shouldn't be saying that origin stories are a way to assuage humans' inherent fears of the unknown, even though that is what origin stories are. So
base.
Basically, my professor is telling me to rewrite my whole essay, and I'm not gonna fucking do that.
Challenge their assumption. Say, oh, you don't think I can do that? Well, here's mine.
Tell them this is my golden truth. Tell them to flip over the chessboard. Tell them it was a witch that that needs to grade your papers. I don't know.
Hey, so since I said this in the chat, and then Ari said something that I don't think I'm technically allowed to open, why does the cover on Annie List for episode 7 look like a completely different, like, isekai anime?
It's just a different art style. It's just a different art style.
Yeah. By the way, this is again, we've reached the end of this episode, which means this is the end of this artist, Akitaka. They will no longer be doing.
This is my favorite artist.
Yeah, one of the things that stood out to me from the art this week was the like horrific panels of it looked at Kraus dead, and then it looked at like Natsuhi's horrified like face, and I was like,
this is black eyes.
Yeah, it was like all terrifying, and I was like, oh damn. And then
I said that in my server, but I spoilered it so that it wouldn't jump scare people.
Yeah, they were very good at drawing the horror stuff.
Yeah, I remember that, and I remember the panels, the double page spread of Erica with her scythe next to the portrait that has been updated to have Erica sitting on it, and it's her saying episode 6, checkmate of the Golden Witch. I was like, oh shit, that's actually kind of awesome looking, even though I hate the title that she came up with. But
title, art, magical. I really like this art style. Which is why I felt a little affronted last week. If you guys haven't guessed, after over a year of me on and off attending the anime book club, I'm a very defensive person. So that is why I personally was a little distressed when Turando was criticizing the art style last week by pointing out that a lot of the extras don't have the same details that the main characters have, because I like the details that the main characters have, and I think that that's all that's important. So, the extras
have different opinions.
Yeah. That's
but I'm
art.
right.
That's art, baby. Oh, all right. Base. Listen.
Just like Chap is right in all things manga opinions, I'm right in all things art opinions.
I'm right in all things in all opinions. That's just a fact.
Okay.
I have the golden truth now. I've been the team battler from the start. All right, he's still the GOAT. All right, and now he's ascended. He might be Chuny. Okay, he might become Chuny.
I agree with that.
He might become a cult Chuny bullshit. Okay, but we're still on team battler here. Okay, I'm still okay. I still think witches are bullshit. He might be on team witches next episode. I don't know, but I'll still be witches are bullshit. He'll come around to it again eventually. Don't worry, guys. Don't worry.
If I may say something controversial.
You may not.
Yeah.
All right.
Episode 6 has been my least favorite so far.
Episode 5, you mean?
Episode 5. Yeah. I know math.
I don't blame you, because you personally had such a distaste for Erica, which I understand. Erica, and I think even Ryukishi admits in like the afterword, is like a hit or miss character that can like ruin this kind of thing for people.
She's very much, you either love her or hate her.
I think she's cool in some respects, and then in other respects, I think like the first 2 episodes, I like really liked her, and then I just I don't know.
But like it wasn't even just that. I think some of it was like Chap was saying about how it felt like there were so many holes in like the evidence of the illusory court. I didn't like how convoluted Meta Battler and Pawn Battler's engagement became, which we noticed a little bit when he was proving that Kenzo jumped out the window in the last episode. I just don't feel like this, of the ones that we've read so far, I just don't feel like this one was very well executed in terms of storytelling.
Yeah, in comparison to a lot of the other episodes and now how they laid out certain mysteries and explain them with the like the back and forth with the red text and like logical things and all that, this was the most confusing and the most convoluted, to where it's like, and I understand why it's like that. It's because essentially both sides, like, they'll have red text to know what the fuck happened, but they don't know how exactly to properly explain it in a way that does not like fully go against something that they're defending, right? So like Erica knows Kenzo's dead the whole time, even though she, lost that one debate about it, she still kind of knows that Kinzo's dead the whole time, but she's just going to go with that fact because she's still trying to be correct in the little debate about Nazi being the killer. So it doesn't matter. We're not going to try to come up with a way for Natsu to have been the killer and Kinzo to have been dead the whole time now as a result of this, because Erika doesn't give a fuck about that at this point. She just wants to be right, as was established early on with her character. And meanwhile, Battler's whole thing is just, I don't really, I would like to defend Natsuhi, but more importantly, I would like to defend my right to continue this game against Beatrice, because I want to be the one to put down Beatrice, and I'm saying this in quotes that I know you guys can't see now, but put her down metaphorically, meaning he wants to be the one to solve her mysteries and defeat the game, her game, not dealing with any of this bullshit with the Lambda Delta and Burncastle run in this game or whatever. They basically
that really was not what he signed up for.
Yeah.
When he chose to do all this.
Right. So it's a whole thing now where it's just this episode was very confusing with how we've concluded all these and argued back and forth about all these things. I don't know. The point of it is, I guess, to show us that there can be two truths to a story, that both sides don't necessarily present enough evidence to fully say that this is definitively the truth. You can have multiple truths to explain these kind of things in a lot of cases. And so you could say these red truths about things, but that's not really where the fun is. This is why we don't just say in red text a witch did or did not do this crime or whatever. Otherwise, there's no point to the game. So in this case, it's more of just okay, we're presenting these two truths, Battler's truth and Erika's truth about the events of this happening. Both of them could have happened. They're not really refuting each other. But because of the nature of how we presented our stories, both of which could have happened. And so in the eyes of Lambda Delta being the judge to preside over the case, and I guess presumably also the jury who gets to determine what the result is, has decided, okay, there's enough doubt on both sides to say, I don't know who the fuck is the winner. I know what the right answers are. Neither of you fully arrived at it. So based on both your stories, I'm just going to say it's a tie because I got doubts based on both your stories now. I don't both of them technically could work. So I don't know who the real winner is here. And so I think about that stuff, and I think that's a cool concept, and I enjoy that is a concept that we're exploring. I just got kind of a little annoyed by how convoluted we had to be with this kind of stuff. And I will also say, I feel like the blue text was too much to throw in. I understand the point of the blue text, but now I feel like I'm just getting overloaded with these kind of things. I don't really know.
Blue text is just theories.
I know. I understand it's just theories, but it makes it feel overwhelming where it's okay, this is a theory, and because it's said in blue text, it means it has to be refuted at some point. Otherwise, it can be, hold strong or whatever. We can't refute all of his stuff without leaving that alive or something like that. Something to that effect. And I'm just I felt like I would have been able to enjoy some of this stuff a lot better if we did not introduce the concept of blue text and we just only had red text still. Because essentially, blue text doesn't mean fuck all by itself. Blue text doesn't mean fuck all. I mean, you can literally just say the same thing without blue text, and it's not like it
I think that in past episodes, not necessarily with this, it was more that it was designed to back the witches into a corner to force them to use the red text. Here, it stopped having that weight.
Because it's we have so much of it everywhere, and I'm just we didn't need it to be different color. I mean, it probably makes more sense in the visual novel, because you're literally looking at blue text versus red text or whatever in that kind of case, and maybe that helps. I don't know. I'm just trying to think in my head whether or not the difference in medium would help with that kind of concept being more enjoyable for me. For me at this point with this, I'm just okay, this is getting to be too much. I would like to just remove blue text and go back to just red text on occasion. I would like that better. But I mean, even this case, it's trying to say just because you're being presented with red text doesn't mean necessarily two cases couldn't have happened. Just because this one person is the only one who could have been around to do this kind of thing doesn't necessarily mean that they were the only person to have done the crime. There is other kind of things that you have to consider with this kind of thing, of different kinds of red text. And I mean, we, again, as you said earlier, we've been shown this to be the case in other episodes too, where you can't necessarily trust the red text. You can trust it in its specific words, but that doesn't mean there's not any like word trickery or like deception going on where it's like, hey, look over here, but actually there's something else going on. So there's like a little misdirection type deal. And in this case, you know, I was just like, okay, when they laid everything out in the end in like the court document officially declaring their judgment on the matter, that was easier for me to follow. Because I'm just like, okay, so at the end of all that bullshit back and forth, this is what we've come to. This is the court's assumption of what has happened, and this is what they are currently arguing. And it makes more sense to me in that kind of case, as opposed to the, like, back and forth arguing. Maybe it's this. Well, it can't be this because of this. Well, maybe it's this. And it's like, it's one of those things where, and maybe it's because I'm thinking too much about like real court cases or whatever, where it's like, usually in real court cases, you're not just throwing out bullshit back and forth to each other, right? You usually like...
Someone clearly hasn't played Ace Attorney.
Well, I mean, someone... Okay. Listen, I played a little bit Ace Attorney. Let's be clear here about that. Okay. I played, I think, the tutorial level. Okay. So that's enough. The tutorial case with what's his name? Seymour Butts or whatever.
Someone clearly hasn't brought a parent to the stand to stand trial or defended a whale.
Don't make sense on the internet.
I'm not going to question. I'm assuming it's Ace Attorney bullshit. I want to hope we're not referencing real cases.
Stuff. Balor's going to defend a whale.
Can't wait to see Balor defend a whale.
Okay. What I'm getting at here, though, is that typically, from what I understand, and maybe I'm not, again, I'm not a lawyer or whatever, but from what I understand, you're typically coming up with your idea for the stuff in the middle of the trial, and then you're like presenting it as like a solid story throughout the whole thing that you're trying to defend or whatever. It's not like a whole, I'm entering this case not knowing what the fuck I'm here to argue about. All I know is I just want to say that they're fucking wrong about these things. And it's fine, though.
That you usually will lose if you do that.
Exactly. But it's hard to, it's annoying to say that though, because like, it's like this because of it's a story. You're meant to have like, oh no, how is he going to get out of this? Or, oh no, what you as the reader is supposed to try to figure out some kind of excuse for him to try to get out of these things as well and things like that. But I just get confused. There's a lot of shit going on, arguing back and forth about the red text, and it gets overwhelming. And like in the meantime, we're also getting these awesome fight scenes while it's happening because they're physically fighting each other with the truths, the different colors of truths.
Sieg said, how are we going to summon Blades of Blue Truth to have an epic logic battle duel with your opponent if there is no blue truth?
Listen, Yu-Gi-Oh! Right? Is that what we're referencing? We're referencing Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm assuming? Is that what this is?
I don't know. Sieg said that, not Shadow.
You're talking about epic fights!
Yeah, that also happens in fucking My Little Pony. Am I referencing My Little Pony here?
I don't know. Are you?
No? I was just saying something that Sieg said when you mentioned the blades.
What?
That I thought was funny.
I'm specifically saying, is he referencing Yu-Gi-Oh? Because he's saying summon Blades of Blue Truth. That sounds like he's saying summon a Yu-Gi-Oh card.
No, moving on.
Okay, that's all I was asking. And then we're giving you snide remarks about My Little Pony. I'm not having this shit, okay? Anyways.
We've broken him.
Yes, you all have, okay? This episode confused me. I was still fine with it, but the trial was a little too much for me. I was fine with parts of it, and again, the retrial. The retrial stuff I thought was awesome. Okay, to clarify, I was getting confused with the initial trial. The retrial I followed a lot more cleanly. The retrial I enjoyed. Battler arguing these things makes more sense for me, and was like went really fine for me. Beatrice was a dog shit lawyer. Is what I'm getting at. That was my lesson for this week. Do not hire Beatrice as your lawyer. She will not do well. As we know, she's incapable of doing it because this is her piece. If she was capable of being a good lawyer, she would have been, but she was not. So, that's just how that works. Anyways, Beatrice's battler or something. Yeah. Okay. So we have an afterword from Ryukishi. We have an afterword. Let me read this. The game's turning point. Hello, I am Ryukishi07. We finally reached the end of the manga edition of episode 5. This is all thanks to the hard work of the artist, Akitaka sensei, and the support of the readers. This is a very valuable and rare episode that features none of Beatrice's usual absurdity in the real world. LOL. He wrote that. I didn't say that. He wrote LOL. Perhaps this was a bit unfulfilling for those who prefer the energetic and cruel witch instead. If you thought that way, you're stuck deep in the witch's quagmire. LOL. What? You're not? Are you sure? As I touched upon in the story, how can you truly believe that the witch is engaging in a fair fight with you? Battler answered Delanor with complete confidence that Bito had been fighting him with all her strength. But how can you trust text that isn't read? Especially after how badly you got fooled in episode 3. Episode 5 is the turning point of the game that is Umineko. The character of Erika Furudo is a love it or hate it element, but I believe she's shown you a completely different way of looking at things. There will be even more wonderful characters to meet ahead. I hope that you stick with us. Thank you so much to Akitaka sensei for depicting the turning point of the story with such powerful and loving art. Wow. That also reminds me, we had the Delanor death, you die, whatever. What's the sound effect? Where's the sound? Where's the sound? Play the sound. It's still quiet. It's still quiet. You
know that my ass was saying that as I was reading that panel.
And again, the artist cooked, okay, in those panels, made it look really awesome. Okay, the artist was cooking. All right. We're on our way to episode 6, Dawn of the Golden Witch.
6.
6. Kinzu Natsuhi. 6.
Bad band.
I mean, listen. Anyways, is there anything else we want to bring up before we wrap up for this week? Any other memes, fan theories, opinions, art takes, Battler eating disorder, like updates? I don't. What are we doing?
I think he's mostly been drinking tea.
Ooh.
Primarily with Delanor, which would make sense because he doesn't want to introduce eating disorders to children. That's why he willingly.
but when Maria's around.
No. I was about to say that he willingly accepts Maria's marshmallows. Does he eat them in front of her? Not necessarily, but he'll take them as a sign of common courtesy.
Based.
I literally, I think I told you this. I have an idea of a fic that I want to write, but I'm afraid to write it and get all of the characterization for the characters wrong, despite the fact I know that I need to wait. Are you telling me that Anorexic Battler is going to become canon within the next 3 episodes? I was just, because, like, what I want to do would be in a world where the game doesn't take place anyway. I just want to make sure that I would have the characterization correct, so I don't want to write it until I'm finished.
I mean, you don't even know who Bito is, so.
I look like I give a fuck?
I think Bito is the embodiment of Battler's eating disorder. That's what I think it is. I think that's the real answer.
She's the embodiment of Battler's dysphoria. He wishes that he was a girl and also skinny. Beatrice is his ideal form.
Based.
I think I'm cooking over here, to be honest.
No, I believe it. I believe it. I subscribe
I
to it.
cannot wait.
I subscribe to it. I subscribe to it. All right.
Say,
That I'm right. I'm gonna lose my shit.
I'm not gonna say anything.
Okay. All right. And with that, we wrap up episode 5, End of the Golden Witch. But that's not the end, because we still have several more episodes to go through. Next week, we begin episode 6, Dawn of the Golden Witch. Check your local book club reading schedule to find out what chapters you're supposed to read, and we will do so. Why are we laughing about things? What is going on? Shadow, would you like to share with the class what you wrote? Shadow, are you here? He probably can't talk right now. I will read what Shadow wrote in the chat. Shadow wrote, his sin was that he said he was going to be trans, and these two have been laughing uncontrollably ever since.
It's because he came out of the closet and he got in trouble, so now he can't admit to being gay.
Yeah, Kinzo would not appreciate that, probably. I don't know what Kinzo's opinions on these matters, but...
Oh my god.
All right. He killed Kinzo because he got in the way. True.
And he needed the money for his hormone therapy.
I think the gold can help with that. I think it helps. I think it helps with it.
could estrogen save her?
Without love, it cannot be seen. And with that, we will say goodbye, gamers. Good night, stream. We'll see you next week, same time.
Bye, stream.
Good night, stream.